Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I've got another 3D creation video for you. You will see me making a new set of hair or a new hairstyle, and also in the second part I will do a small headpiece, headgear. It's a tiara for the aforementioned set. I actually wanted to do a third piece for the whole thing, but due to me having a rather strong headache today, I did not finish that piece, so you can look to forward to that next week. Okay, so I started with the hair, and you see I've started with a single tube. At the start of the tube, or of the hair part, I usually tend to use only very few segments. So I for these segments I have around the head, and then use the extrusion tool. Also, I usually only do one side of the head, left or right, and then copy paste and mirror the other part over. As you can see, I've gone into a little bit more detail here. I use the extrusion tool on one of the edges, which gives me a few small faces around this particular edge, and I used the extrusion tool on those to give the impression of strands of hair dangling off the main part. At first I thought about implementing or copying over another hairstyle, but I just simply said, okay, this isn't going to work, this isn't going to fit, and I decided to do the rest of the hair in the same manner, which means I started with a tube with two segments, and I mostly used edges to manipulate them and put them into place. Also, as you can see, the edges, the tubes tend to become smaller the further down I get. Since in this case I wanted to have a ponytail at the end, so they all the edges fit into the ponytail in the end, and thus they have to get smaller. Also, I didn't use just round tubes. Instead, I pulled one of the faces in. This is for me to get a better grip of how close to the actual head I am. So at many junctions, or at many points, I see the innermost line outside of the skull, of the head, but I see the other points, or the other corners and edges, clip through the head, which in this case is intended. Also, I try to make sure that I don't see any skin through the hair. So you will see that later when I go over the whole thing again and make sure that the skin isn't visible through the parts of the hair. In the other hair styles, I went with more and finer tubes, so I made more tubes which were smaller. In this case, I chose to go with bigger tubes because I wanted to try the difference. The smaller tubes often look like dreadlocks or like some kind of made up hair, and I wanted to give it another texture, like it looks actually more like single strands of hair instead of dreadlocks or something like that. So this is why I chose to go with broader and thicker tubes this time, in case you're wondering, and in case you have seen my other videos about making hairs. Yeah, as you can see, I'm almost done. I've started with the one of going from the front to over the ears, to the side, to the back. And did the second one I did was the one actually in the center of the head, or almost at the center of the head, because I need those two to frame basically the rest of the tubes. And as you can see, in this case, the last tube is actually really made to fill the leftover space, so I'm not squeezing 2 or 3 tubes in here as I did before, but rather I chose to fill the space with one bigger tube, because usually you only see my hair from the front. Actually, in this render you will see it from a good part of the side too. So here we are, and next one is adding the textures. I cut the hair, or I used the tool to pick the edge along the center edge that is inwards to the head. So you can't possibly see the not connecting part of the hair where the texture is connecting with itself, and rather you see the whole hair, and it looks actually passable. A little bit doing the strands of hair was a little bit different, because at first I tried to leave them open, but this didn't work as intended for some reason. So I had to actually do a lot of different single pieces. And as you can see, I didn't take the time to actually arrange all of that in a let me think, in a structured way, so it's not complete normal squares, but rather I left it in the shape that it was, as a test run again, to see how this works if I actually put the texture on it. And in this case it works rather well. Yeah. Lastly, I decided I want to do some hair on the back of the head, like that the ponytail is not the upmost furthest down part, but there's a little bit of hair under it, so it looks a bit more natural, basically. Because usually if you pull hair into a ponytail, it's not below the hairline, but a little bit above it. And this is what I was trying to do with these parts. But yeah, they're just basically copy-pasted and modified a little bit. Yeah, and now I'm copy-pasting the whole thing over. And as you can see, or as you have seen, there is a little bit of space in the middle that I had to fix. So I'm dragging the most middle part a little bit in, and now we have a working texture. Working hair. I decided to ruffle up the second half a little bit, so the for these strands that don't look completely symmetrical, which gives it a lot of naturality, so it looks just more natural, more realistic than if you had hair that is completely symmetrical on both sides. And actually for this part I copy pasted the ponytail of the long hair, the long tail, and just edited it a bit from size and also from and here we go. Here's a render of just the hair that I did. Chose to put it in the red. So yeah, and the second part I did, which is actually part of the same video, so I did this basically with one go, is the tiara, which I just now saved as a separate item, so I don't accidentally overwrite my finished hair. Yeah, and it's really simple. It's again, I started with the tube. First I cut out the shape that I wanted of the tiara, then I thickened the remaining parts and chose to increase the number of edges I had by tessellating the whole thing. And finally I decided to add, or what I decided, I planned already to add a gemstone in the center of it, so it's rather simple in the end. And what was a bit interesting is that the gemstone itself, I played around with the smoothing tool, and part of it is smooth, so it's so it fits in the socket which I made first, and part of it is not smooth, so it has an actual edge to it, like a diamond or like a jewel usually has. Yeah, that's the texture, and this also means we're almost done with the video. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, let me know. Just put it in the comments and I'll read them and try to react appropriately. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you like the content. I hope it helps you on whatever you are doing with this. And yeah, here come the renders, the crown itself or the tiara itself, and afterwards the final render of this week. I hope you enjoyed the content and stay healthy, and see you all around.